do this for me. Everybody close your eyes for just a second. And what I want you to do is imagine steampunk, when we think really pre-industrial revolution, we're talking about those changes, that innovation that changed the world. So imagine for just a second that in order to be able, imagine what your life would be like if you couldn't get in a car and drive a distance and arrive within a timely manner, that was going to take you days. Imagine what life would be like if you had to wash all of your clothes by hand. Imagine what that world would be like before that innovation, right? And how that would feel, and how you might feel trapped, or how you might feel like the world was a very, very large sort of place. And that innovation changes that, right? Now I want you to imagine your costume. Imagine something that you're building, and imagine the problems that you encountered along the way, or something that you would like to build. What are those challenges? And you're stuck on the yet to build side of that dilemma, right? So you're imagining, this is what I would like to do, and you're trying to put all the pieces together and figure out, how do I power it? How do I shape it? How do I sew it? Right? And how does that feel? Now imagine for just a second that you have a child with autism. Or imagine that you receive a diagnosis of cancer and it's terminal. Or imagine that you have a vision for bringing the arts to children in an area, but you lack the funding and the resource to be able to do that. So you can open your eyes now. So as steampunk in that community, steampunk is about innovation, isn't it? It's about problem solving. And when you were imagining your costume, all these ideas came to mind, right? I could try this, or I could try that, or I could go on YouTube and look at this, or I could talk to these people, and there's energy that we like to pour into that problem solving. And we use this Victorian kind of standpoint that we reach into the future and we say, okay, knowing what comes next, if we placed ourselves in the Victorian era and we reached into the future and we pulled that back, what would that innovation look like based on the technology that we have, or the way that we like to think about the world, our worldview? But we pull from the future. For all of the charities that we serve, for the most part, innovation is at their core. What they're trying to raise money for, what they're trying to accomplish, is to problem solve something that they hope for in the future. They want to reach into that future and they want to pull it into the present and find innovative ways to be able to attack that problem, or to break down that barrier, or to find that funding, right? So I think steampunk and our mentality here in our creation, and almost every charity that we work for, has a lot in common. We have innovation in common. And so when you see someone in a steampunk costume versus like a Superman or a movie hero or whatever, that's fantasy, and that's great. It's powerful. And I think when we think of charities, we think going to a hospital, or we go to a charity race or something like that. Oh, the kids they want to see Iron Man, right? Well, that's a hero on a screen. But for that kid who's looking for an answer, for that person who's waiting for innovation, for technology, or for science to catch up with their cure, what they're fascinated by is possibility. And I think steampunk represents possibility in a real world, in some real ways. So for me, I think there's a really strong, just even fundamental value connect between the charities that we serve and support and the steampunk community. But my fear is, and my concern is, that part of the reason that we don't do that is that we see ourselves as different. We see ourselves as other. So we gather together with like, right? So we're steampunk. So we focus on each other because we get each other, right? But there are really important pieces of who we are and what we do that translate across many boundaries if we look for that. And I think charity is a great way for us to make those connections. So when we were talking about that, Chris and I were kind of dialoguing it. What is it that maybe steampunk, where's the disconnect? And I'm wondering if it's maybe that we don't see our relevance in those worlds. We don't see our relevance outside of this kind of space, right? This is a place where people get us. When I dress like this and I walk into Walmart, people don't get me, right? So what? So why would I do that if I go out on a track and people are running around and they're trying to raise money for cancer research or whatever? I think because there's a huge match there. This is about innovation. It's about creative problem solving. This is about being inventive, and about reaching into the future and pulling that future into now. So for me, that's the perspective, and that's why I love steampunk, because it is about innovation, it is about creativity, it is about taking nothing and making it into something amazing. And I think that's what most of our charities are looking to do, right? They have a vision, and they're trying to practically figure out how to live out that vision. And we represent that in some unique ways. So that would be what my 2 cents would be around that.
And
those hats are amazing.
What's the '1 rule of steampunk?
It's not steampunk to say it's not steampunk.
There it is.
Amen.
And how many kids do not have that concept? It's not something if it's not something. They don't have that concept. They're just, and especially kids in need, You wanted to expand on.
Well, I think steampunk is such a natural fit for STEM programs, and I think that there is such a focus on STEM in America, but one of the things that makes steampunk great, and why I try to steer things more towards the STEAM acronym than the STEM acronym, is because we are losing sight of that artistic and that the historical component of education. And I think that by using steampunk to promote STEM programs, it's bringing that aspect of art and history that is so critical to having a completely rounded education and for making the future. You can't look towards the future without learning from the past, right? So that we don't repeat history. And I think that we are really losing sight of that art and history component. And using steampunk kind of brings that back.
For those people that are just entering, what we're trying to encourage you is the fact that we believe that steampunk is probably one of the best groups to do charity of all the groups out there because of the creative level, the uniqueness of the steampunk community. It's a personal question to me. If I had not steampunked, I would be one of 1,000 Darth Vaders walking around right now. And I wouldn't be invited to 1/10 of the charities as one of the 1,000 Darth Vaders. But by going through steampunk, it changes everything up. I love all your costumes, but your steampunk Mandalorian is like, it's over and above everything, but you've taken that steampunk attitude. You want to stand up? Yeah, sure. This is Sean. Come on. But Sean is one of the people that I think has taken the steampunk attitude of creativity and applied it to all the other forms of costuming. His is not a standard Batman or Captain America or any outfit. It's always being creative and being changed. We started we piggybacked onto the San Diego Star Wars Society events. That's how we got into charity. We were not responsible for that. We piggybacked onto that and immediately realized that our uniqueness helped that group expand out, And I think it's any groups. Anytime that more people show up and that children can get to see them and anything. Anytime more groups are there and more people are there, it creates an energy. And that's why when there's people available, the more people you have available for events, people keep asking. There's no shortage of events to do. There's a shortage of time and people. And that's what helps. And that's what helps any group in general, is that when there's more people available, having more people to tap to say, are you available on Saturday to come out, for an event and everything. That's what really helps every group in it. It doesn't matter what your niche is. It doesn't matter what you're dressed up as. But Chris is right and everything. There's different things that steampunk really stands out for. The STEM stuff and the STEAM stuff. They love steampunk because look around. Things light up. People create, people are making exactly. But people sew their outfits. People make their outfits light up. I saw a gun earlier made out of musical instruments. This is what that's STEM and steampunk tie together so well because that's what you want, creativity. That's what you want to be when you're pushing science, especially when you're trying to get
like women into science and other people, and all kids to enjoy science and push forward with it, showing them the creativity and the fun with it, and that everybody's having a good time. That's how they can get into it a little more. I know I've gone to a STEM event and they got more obsessed with the things that lit up on my outfit, and those were kids who wanted to know, how did you do it? And they get fascinated, and they'll sit with you for an hour to figure out like how to make LEDs light up on something, or where you got the idea, how you got the pieces of metal that stay together, or your leather, the leather pieces. This is something that really captures the imagination of kids. This is dress up right here. This is, we're doing when they grab the blanket and make a cape. This is what happens when you have more time and money to grab the blanket. That's all I'm doing. I just don't jump off the roof this time.
Don't do that
This
again.
time. No. This is the group that knows that. We've
How
done
many of you spent more than $10 on what you're wearing right now? How many spent more than 50? How about more than 100? How many spent more than 20 minutes? How about more than a week? How many of you have been working on this for over a year? How many of you, it continues to change and you never stop working on it? Okay, so this is a huge investment, right? Could we agree that this is a huge investment of time and of resource and of energy? The opportunity to share that with others and to inspire them, to move them forward in their agenda, to help them to take the steps that they need to take and to get them excited about creativity, that's a return on this investment, on your investment. So the amount of time and energy and money and resources that we pour into this, the value that we get back is when that kid is pointing at the thing lighting up on your costume. Or when, and I'll be honest with you, I love coming to events like this because I love seeing the creativity, but there's not enough time to see everybody's costume, and I don't have the opportunity really, nor do I take the time to celebrate every little thing that I see. But when we go to a charity event, and we're one of 6 or 7 people in the place that's wearing a costume, everybody's celebrating that creativity. And you get to have dialogue about every little piece. Chris, kids will spend hours just looking at every toy on Chris's costume. And it's this ongoing exchange of creative dialogue. So it is a value, it's a value back to this community in terms of that investment and the payoff on that investment and your time. So it's not a one-sided thing. It's not just we give. We get back when we involve ourselves in this dialogue of creativity and innovation and moving forward and pushing forward. So, you become the superstar. So if that's your thing, for me, honestly, I get enough of that in about 20 minutes. I don't want to run hide because I'm more of an introvert and that's hard for me. But there is so much energy in that space and it's so satisfying. There's a deep satisfaction in that because my investment matters. The time I spent, the resource I spent, the creativity I poured into this. It's shared, and it's shared with people who come alive at that. And that's not something I necessarily experience, even in this community, because there's so much going on, there's so much to see, there's so much to celebrate. So I love that part of it too. So that moment when that kid just comes running up and says, "Ooh, what's that? What's that? What's that?" It's a most satisfying moment. It really is.
And one of the things that, you never hear at charity events, with the people that are steampunk, the person doesn't say, "Where did you buy that costume?"
Yep.
They just immediately go into, "How did you make that?" They see right off, this isn't something they're going to see during Halloween at Party City. As much as Party City tries to sell those goggles like there's no tomorrow, that isn't all there is to steampunk. And the thing is that there's a moment, your first time, when it stops being about you and it starts being about the person who's looking at you. And it'll hit you so hard that you will never stop doing charities. If you want, I can guarantee you from here till next September, any Saturday or Sunday, you drive down to Liberty Station where the cannons are, and there's going to be a charity marathon waiting for you. Every weekend. There's at least 4 or 5 5K walks around Liberty Station. It's the hangout for charity fundraising. And once they see you once, Well, you better have a closet full of steampunk outfits, because they're going to be asking you back, can you come back? What's next? What's next?
Would that be your recommendation for what would be like for people wanting to get started doing a charity thing, going to a charity event or helping with steampunk? Would you say doing a 5K? Like
5K is to me,
for you the starting point.
yeah, for me it's the starting point. It's the most accessible. Usually there are costumers. I can't think of a charity event that we've gone for either San Diego Star Wars Society or the Sci-Fi Coalition to where we didn't see costumers that weren't associated with us that showed up. Because a lot of the 5K people show up to do 5K in costume.
That is a big thing. That is
You know,
yeah.
Father Joe's, we get 10,000 people for that thing. For, his turkey trot. And I would say there's hundreds of people in full costume gear.
The
And you'll
Disney
just,
run.
huh?
The Disney run.
The
Oh, the Disney run, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be back on next year. Just hundreds of people. And the thing is that, so you don't have to worry about blending in. You'll stand out, I'll guarantee.
And you don't have to do the run. When we say the 5K, you can show up and cheer. People, there's an energy when you're a part of it. Well, that's what I'm saying. Because there was confusion when I was asked the first time. When I was asked the first time to go in costume to a 5K, and I told them, I said, I think I can do it, but that's a long run in the stills. And so they were like, no, we stand on the side and we cheer, and that's easy. I'm 100% on board for that. But that's the thing, is you can go out and cheer for these things. You don't have to think I need to sign up for it. I need to get into a 5K shape so I can go cheer for this. Or the boots I'm wearing are definitely not 5K boots. You can go out and cheer for people, because nothing motivates someone more or feels better than when you're doing an event like that and you're running in it and seeing cheering on the side, seeing that kind of energy. That makes it a ton of fun, and that makes the event special. Pardon?
And they all run with these now.
Yeah.
And boy, they love coming off to the side and saying, can I get a shot, can I get a shot, can I get a shot? Okay, so that's 5Ks, but there's other places. There's online. Getting steampunked up to do something that's online. One of my favorite events. I literally I wear a different outfit each day of the event too. A different shirt. You want to talk about your?
I think one of the nice things about events that are based online, because we are everywhere from close to the border to north of LA, is sometimes it's hard to get together. And the nice about that is that certain people can do San Diego events, some people can do LA events, and we're big enough now that we can really spread out. Nathan Seekerman is doing events in LA this weekend when we're all down here. So, but being able to do something where everybody can get involved on a daily basis and we don't have to actually be in the same place at the same time is kind of a nice change in what we do. So each year I've been doing this event called Train Like a Martian, which is the Mars generation. They did a documentary about them on Netflix. If you haven't seen it, it's really great. And I was that kid who always wanted to go to space camp, desperately wanted to go to space camp. My parents could never afford for me to go to space camp. And so the Train Like a Martian challenge is something that the Mars generation does every year, so that it raises money so that kids can not only go to space camp, but go to other STEM and STEAM programs in their area when they would not be able to afford it otherwise. And I think one of the great, again, I kind of touched on it earlier, one of the great things about being a steampunk group and having that connection to STEM is being able to bring that A into STEM and make it into STEAM. And last year, we exceeded our goal, and we were one of the top online solo team groups in the entire program. So I was really proud of us for that. And all you have to do is take a picture or a video each day and upload it with the hashtag, and encourage people to donate. But yeah, so things like that. And we did like the 22 push-up challenge, which is very near and dear to my heart, coming from a very military family. My brother's a Marine who struggled with issues in that regard. So, things like that are kind of a big
And how many of you want to see Bob Mogg doing jumping jacks and diving gear? Think about it. You know?
Only if the bubbles are going.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of the things that we're talking about sound really active. Two things you should know. First of all, our dear Sabe Sprocket is violently allergic to exercise. So she violently, she has like a severe reaction. Just I said exercise sitting next to her, and she's already breaking out. So not everything that we do is really active. Though the Train Like a Martian, it's a lot of fun to do that and try and do the exercises in costume, and then certainly the push-ups and yeah, like with 5K, it's standing on this, usually on the side of the road and cheering folks on. But there are a lot of events that we do where we're costumed guests, but we're more or less props. And so we're there just to draw attention, just to capture the attention of media, just to capture the attention of potential donors. And that's another great way to get involved. So if you have a costume where you can't really move, or you have a condition where that's difficult for you to maybe get up and move around with kids out on a field somewhere or some things like that, there are a lot of ways to get involved where I think of one, and this event we've done, Noah and I have done a couple of years, and I just love it, is an autism awareness event that we've done in just a little north of LA. And it's an event where we come in costume, but the guests also have the opportunity to dress up and be in costumes. They have costume pieces there, so they get to kind of put on a different persona. And this last time they had a professional film crew with a green screen, and we got to go into this room with guests and create stories, and they would make up these stories, and we had to act them out in front of a green screen, and they were in costume. So they picked which of us they wanted to be with them in their story, and they got to tell their story, and then the film crew filled in all of the gaps for them and sent that back out to them, and it was a wonderful thing for them to be able to take with them. So we more or less stood around in that event and just greeted guests and inspired their creativity. So there are all kinds of different levels here. You don't have to, if you're thinking, I could never do that, I can't, you enter at the level where you are. And if you have a lot more freedom and you can do a lot of different things, great. If you can't, that's fine, there's still opportunities. This isn't just an active person's game, if that makes sense. Because I think a lot of times people think, oh, this has to be down the street, or I have to be able to stand still. Okay, you can find charities down the street where you can stand still.
Steampunk is really ideal for education charities, I think, even more than anything, because going to hospitals and things like that, steampunk is really great, but Batman's going to be more popular at with little kids at a hospital or something like that where they're sick, But I think with anything to do with education, we did a volunteer. In fact, Rebecca went with me. We kind of adopted a high school almost when they were doing a steampunk program. And we were there every step of the way from the moment they started, and then we went back, we assisted them, and and then we went back for their big presentation, and oh my God, they were so excited to show us everything that they had done, everything, like this is what you worked on with me. This is what, I got inspiration from your blaster for this little thing. A girl did this whole monologue up on this soapbox that was just beautiful. I was gonna cry. And they were, I don't know, just the pride in which they showed us everything that they had accomplished. And to be there from the very beginning and help to plant that seed was such an honor. So I think education in particular is great for steampunk.
And I really want to encourage anybody. We're Star Wars Steampunk Universe. That doesn't mean each individual character is that. We get a lot of Star Wars people now that come to our events and joining our groups. We get a lot of steampunk people at Comic Cons. They come out and pose with us. It's like the first rule of steampunk. You don't have to have a finished outfit or a perfect outfit or something to where a kid's going to say, oh, I know you're Luke Skywalker in steampunk. No, it's just the joy of hanging out with each other, but in a whole new setting, And they're out front. Stop by the the Sci-Fi Coalition tables. Talk to them. This I gotta say, to me, they have sort of stepped up to the plate to where sort of 501st and San Diego Star Wars Society, they've been doing it for so long, so hard. It's really hard to keep up the momentum. And thank goodness that the Sci-Fi Coalition has decided, okay, well, we will give a little more energy and pump some vigor into it, because also all the groups are now working in coordination with each other. And so stop by the table, talk to them, pick up their information, join their group. Whenever you see anything that that says Dude Vader's going off to do something, for heaven's sakes, just PM, private message me and say, where are you going to, can I come along as Steampunk? Absolutely, you know? Because the thing is that we need people for the charity situation. I was thinking to myself, you know, in the humanistic movement, in the Victorian era, the upper class would dress down to go help the needy. But we're going to dress up to go help the needy, okay? You know, this is what we can do. And we can do it at a minimal level. You can do it like you're saying, I just want to wear a hat and goggles and that and pretty relaxed clothes because I'm just getting off work. Great, come by, show up, you know? And don't ever count yourself less. Because, you know, every single person who needs a charity input wants you. Every person, you know?
They take you undressed up. Like
Yeah.
most of these events,
Not undressed. Not dressed up.
you're assuming they won't take them. I'm just but no, but they will take. It's the idea of showing up, and we always because of the group we're in, this circle and everything, we always hyper criticize what our outfit will look like, or how ready we are to go out and show off what we're wearing. But the honest truth is, you're always ready to help at a charity. You've got everything. A smile and a hat is pretty much, you're good to go. I mean, that's all they want. The kids want to smile. People want someone there smiling and being helpful. But you put on something, you take that persona with you, you walk out there and you make it a fun day. And so you don't
touch on some of that. Like, for those of you out there who've never done charity work, for my hardcore dedicated steampunkers, I know we talk a lot about this is, costuming and going out, but for a lot of us, this is a lifestyle, right? This is like something we love. It's in our homes, it's everywhere. So how cool is that to take something you love that is your life, and you go share it with someone else? And you may not be the Batman or the Superman, but remember, to a child, you're a hero because you're in something. And that's something that you internalize so much that you love, and now you get to share it with someone. And that's what I just love about steampunk.
One of the things we really strike home, when you're at a con, you're playing a hero. When you're at a charity event, you are the hero. That's such a different attitude. And it's like, we all have fantasies of being the hero. We wouldn't be costuming up if we didn't have that fantasy. And the thing is that,
Anti-hero.
and if you just say, but I'm still frightened by it, every single charity event needs wranglers. If you go to when they have to call it Make-A-Wish, we need wranglers there. We need somebody to go chase after the chicken that just got out of the cage. We need, somebody
That's
to
a
help.
euphemism for Chris, by the way.
Pretty much.
Turkey is the most common usage, not chicken.
No, but Chris is right. Wranglers, I don't know if most everybody here knows the term because we all do costumes, but wranglers are someone who go to the event not dressed up in costume, and they're there to facilitate and help those that are dressed up in costume and the event in general. And that is one of those jobs that are so needed. They're so needed, and we
Dead mothers.
Yes.
Exactly. 10 minutes? Does anybody have any questions?
We also need people with flexible schedules. So if you are retired or work remotely or anything like that, because there are a lot of charity events during the week.
Are you free on
Yeah, that's the hardest thing to tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really the very hard, but oddly enough, ask your boss. if you can go to a charity event and watch the change in your workplace. Just ask the question. Because one of the guiding forces Nathan and I have talked about since day one, just show up. You have no idea what's going to happen. Just show up. It's the hardest thing to do, you know? Because it's very comfortable to sit home and be doing something else and have a million excuses, but just showing up. I've probably, we've been going on 3.5 years. I've probably had 5,000 encounters that I would have never imagined in my whole life, you know? And they are so intense, just talking about it just brings a floodgate of, wow, I lived a life because I got to be a part of charity, you know?
Any questions from, I mean, most of these people, you know, most of you and everything, but, you know, I don't think there are many, but I want to make sure there are offers or questions or anything like that too. Or comments.
I see a lot of costumes, you know, especially at events like this, that have a story that clearly the costume is telling the story. If you kind of know and you've created a character and your costume, especially with steampunk, is steeped in history in a very specific area. I'm a pilot, I'm an explorer, I'm whatever. A lot of the events that we do are attached to schools or STEM exploratory sort of carnivals or celebration like that. I know that I met Matt and Rebecca for the first time before they were a part of Star Wars Steampunk at an event where Nathan and I were representing Star Wars Steampunk at a school, and it was the drama department, I believe, wasn't it? And so they had all of these historical reenactors and this huge panel, and I mean, it's huge, too many people on this panel. But we received the most questions because our costumes were so unique and so creative, but we also had stories behind those costumes. And so how would that play out for this, in this case, on the stage? But how I can tell about, we can talk about Star Wars, right? But if my costume is nautical or whatever, I have a story to tell. So there are lots of opening lines with steampunk, and that's sometimes all you need, is a good opening line. You need a card and a story, right? And that's your in. That's the way you start the dialogue. If you're wondering how to begin, create a good quality website that has pictures of yourself, have some cards, have a good story, and there's your opening line, right? And I guarantee you most charitable organizations are going to eat it up. And I can say that because like Poppy mentioned, many of us, charity and charity work, that's a lifestyle. For 24 years, I have served on boards or been a staff member for 501c3 charitable organizations. It wasn't until pretty recently that I started cosplaying for charity. And I guarantee you, from that administrative end, that doesn't get sent to the back of the file. That's a, hey, could we do something with this at our next event? This is really cool. So sometimes you just need that opening line, so be prepared with that and know your story.
There's a Sacramento group that has been doing it for years, has been taught, like their steampunk group, but they do events and everything, and they are never out of character. It's totally different for me. I'm not great at them. They never leave character, so they are the airship group at whatever event they're at and everything. But it creates a mystique, even from like when I met them, I was floored by it because I still remember to this day meeting them. I mean, I got a ticket from their captain. Their captain wrote a ticket to me, and it was done on like an airship sheet, and it was for having my outfit being too crazy or too wild or something. Yeah, exactly. So, and it was crazy because he stayed in character. But they do a lot of events together, and they're just steampunk. But they have the backstory. They have the characters. They have the backstory. They can talk about their ship from the start of the event to the end of the event, and it's a fun way to do it. It's a different way to get into your character, and you can go as extreme, like I said, in constant, you are the character, to being able to talk about your character.
So how many people are going to do 5K cheering with me before the end of the summer? Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If these are okay.
As long as they don't have
And
to run
stop
it.
by the Sci-Fi Coalition table, ask them about their charity work, give them your name, give contact information, And I think I speak for all of us that, you know, it's a real privilege for us to be able to be a part of any kind of panel to where we get to sit here, and thank you guys for opening this door for us. Because 3 years ago, you know, if there was a steampunk event, we'd be over there dueling with Doc right now, you know. And so thanks for coming into our room and help us share our stories, and please become a part of our future stories. That's what I want to get to encourage you more than anything. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Oh, and can, because we drifted in, our panelists,
Your name.
What's your name?
and your favorite charity.
And your favorite
What's your
charity?
favorite charity?
Currently, I love doing Make-A-Wish stuff. In this character, because kids know who I am, because I tried really hard to keep, even though this is steampunk, I tried really hard to keep the silhouette of Ahsoka there. And so kids know, even though I'm not, you know, I don't have head tails or anything, they know. And I love that. They're like, Ahsoka! I'm like, yes!
And I'm Dude Vader, and I gotta say Father Joe's turkey thing, because it's tens of thousands of people, and I finally got under 1 hour doing at that event. And if you're going,
In
yeah,
costume.
with
In costume.
only 55 pounds worth of costumes.
I'm Tracy, Sabe Sprocket, and I'm going to steal James's line. My favorite charity is the next charity.
That's what I say at every panel, is my favorite event is the next one.
Wow. Oh, that was just cruel.
She robbed you, man.
What did Matt put in that? That's just, okay.
He just gave blood.
Well, my name is James, and I cosplay Lando Kronos with Star Wars Steampunk.
Really, this is such a hard question. I just had this conversation with my son on the way down because he asked me, what's your favorite kind of music? I hate favorite questions because it's just, how do you answer that? My favorite kind of music is whatever I'm listening to right now. That's why I always answer that way. I did mention that autism awareness event, and one of the reasons that I think for all of us, we have particularly resonant points when it comes to some of these charities because of the way that certain things have touched our lives personally. And we have a number of friends who've been touched by autism in various ways and to various degrees. And to see what that organization is doing to not just promote research, which a lot of these organizations that we support do, and that's wonderful, and I think that's terrific. But they're very actively involved with families and with people who are directly touched, and in some wonderful and very practical ways, and I love that.
I am Chance Kronos, and I would probably have to say that any form of autism awareness event is probably my favorite, because I've always had a place in my heart for people with autism, just because they always are, like, I'm friends with a lot of people with autism at my school, and all my other friends will come up to me and they'll ask why I'm hanging out with these people, and I can't give them a good answer because there's no reason that I shouldn't be. So,
Yeah.
So can I invite you all to come out and do a photo shoot with us just outside the Star Burner? You know where the Star Burner is set up, that little patio over in the corner where the photo booth is? We'll just go outside and take a shot, because I'd like a group shot of all of us together.
Trevor has a favorite charity too.
Fred, who are you?
Yeah, exactly. I didn't sit, so I don't get to talk. No, I actually, Poppy just spoke with the Special Olympics group, and that's something that we're looking forward to trying to get a charity event for them going on, because that's always been a big deal. I worked with them over 20 years ago, and have always enjoyed working with the Special Olympics and everything. So.
Yeah.